I thought it was a terrible thing when she ripped up the speech. First of all, it's an official document. You're not allowed. It's illegal what she did. She broke the law. But I haven't been asked a question other than a lot of people that viewed it. They couldn't believe that she did it. I thought it was terrible. I thought it was very disrespectful to the chamber, to the country. And, you know, look, I got very high marks on the speech, and I didn't know she did it until I was walking out, and some of the congressmen and women were saying, can you believe what she did? But I didn't know she did. Well, I think there's a lot of evil on that side. They've gone crazy. They've gone totally crazy. It's too bad. I've gotten tremendous amounts done, more than anybody's gotten done in 3 years, by far. But they're not constructive people. That group is, you know, they say Trump derangement syndrome. They've got it. They've got a bad case of it. You saw that. That was on display the other night when she ripped up the speech. That was terrible. It was a terrible, so disrespectful to our country, and actually very illegal what she did.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, we have some of the biggest Q posts I've seen to date. They're incredible bombshells that explain exactly in detail how former administrations sold us out, and how there is a silent war continuing to this date that involves Russia, China, and Iran, and a secret alliance that was used as a conduit for sabotaging our country from within. You guys are going to want to stick around and hear that, plus a whole bunch of other breaking news stories here on Just Informed Talk. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. I'm your host, Craig, and today we have another incredible episode. I always start by saying thank you if you guys have hit that subscribe button. If you haven't, come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications, and then select all so you get notified when all of these videos get posted. Today we're picking up right where we left off. We left off at Q Post 3834. We're picking up at 3835. And this is going to be one of the more important episodes. I have to really stress that I think we've done. I mean, not that they're all not important. There's a lot of information in all of them. This one seems to tie a lot of things together, and it's no coincidence, in my opinion, that all of the information we're going to cover here is kind of being sewn together for us after President Trump's been fully acquitted after this impeachment hoax sham, because it ties together how it seems that the silent war that we've been dealing with here was an amalgamation of plots and plans put together by Russia, China, Iran, and their ilk, basically, to sabotage from within. And we're going to talk about that, but we are able to see these kind of compartmentalized views of each scandal. If it were the emails from Hillary Clinton, the Uranium One scandal, Epstein, Nexium, going down the list, Seth Rich, you name it, the DNC email leak. But now Q is giving us a little inside look at what the 40,000 foot view down is on it. And we're going to start right here with 3835. It gives us this Washington Examiner article that says confidential banking records related to Hunter Biden in Senate hands. Now, this is the report that's come out. We looked at yesterday the letter from Chuck Grassley requesting information from the Secret Service that Q told us to look at about Hunter Biden's travels, and if they were aligning with his father's travels, and if it had some impact on the taxpayer money that was put behind it, and then to give a timeline really for where Hunter Biden was when he was traveling with his father, and that can actually go toward building a case that we're looking at right now, saying the U.S. Treasury Department has started turning over confidential banking records related to Hunter Biden in response to requests from Senate investigative committees. Senate Finance Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley and Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee Chairman Ron Johnson asked the Treasury in November for suspicious activity reports, banking alerts involving money laundering or fraud related to Biden and his associates. So you have to understand here, what we're seeing put together is that the Senate investigation into Hunter Biden is the beginning of all of this crumbling down, because Hunter ties to Christopher Hines, who ties to John Kerry, who ties back to the Obama administration and the Clintons. So it all is in the same cabal, and they all were involved in this seemingly a plot to destroy our country from within and enrich themselves in the process. And I'm talking about the Obama administration, his top officials, from John Kerry to Hillary Clinton to Joe Biden. they all seem to be in on this scam, and we've seen the outcome of it, right? So they actually say, and I'm going to quote from the letter here, it says, the spokesman for Grassley, I'll read this part. It says, the spokesman for Grassley said he could not elaborate on what records contained at this time, but criticized Democrats for recklessly seeking to interfere with the investigation. Quote, as a matter of routine, we don't discuss sensitive third-party material during ongoing investigations. It's unfortunate that Democrats, whom we've kept in the loop on our investigation, would recklessly seek to interfere with legitimate government oversight. So this is what they're up against, right? The fact that as they go into this, they get accused of, going after their political enemies, which is exactly what Q predicted. That was their whole point, right? So it says, read carefully, big development, and I'll leave a link to it in the description if you want to read through the whole thing. It says, Senate back to work. Impeachment goal was to delay. Witness request meant to delay. Will they try again? Accountability is coming. Q. We already know they're going to try again. President Trump told us they're going to try again. I showed you guys a video in yesterday's video where President Trump says, yeah, they're going to come after me again, whether it's through New York and the state court system there, or if it's some other concocted scam. I mean, think about what we've had happen here. President Trump said it. We had Russia, then it was Ukraine, then it was, he's the worst man in the world because he had a conversation about withholding funding, which never was really withheld. And then they went to this bogus obstruction of the Congress charge in their impeachment with no real defined crimes. And they did it all as a way to blockade and delay. The special counsel was all a delay, blockade. Hughes told us this in the past. They're delaying and blockading from this, the thing that they were preparing for as they were leaving office and realized that President Trump had won. They were blockading and delaying from the investigation into Hunter Biden, which would be the thread that unravels the whole sweater and exposes their corruption plainly and nakedly. And it looks at the corruption that was coming not only from within our government, but then within major big tech corporations and also within the media to cover it all up. Yeah, it's coming. They better be ready. The next post here is just a lot of information. I'm just going to read it, and I think you guys can understand a lot of this stuff. It says, think HRC Russia reset statement, Russia. Think Hussein, I'll have more flexibility after the election. Hot Mike's statement to Russian depot re-Q to Hussein re-Putin. So basically that was when Obama said, I'll have more flexibility after I get reelected, to the president at the time, who was actually, or the prime minister, whoever, Putin and the other guy that just switch out intermittently. Anyway, it says, think Hussein White House refusal to send weapons to Ukraine. Republican Congress pushed to assist, but instead sent only blankets. Think Democrats attacks re POTUS for failure to protect Ukraine against Russian government. Impeachment. What advanced weapons did POTUS send to Ukraine? We know the Javelin system, right? It's a missile launching system that would be a way to deter Russians from crossing your border, possibly. 2 + 2 = 6. Define projection. Think $1.8 billion Hussein White House to Ukraine. Which bank? Think U.S. aid, Ukraine. And I think that's Privat Bank. And it's U.S. aid to Ukraine. Think worldwide aid to Ukraine. Think Uranium One, sale of U.S. uranium to Russia. Sold out U.S. to benefit Russia for personal financial gain. Risked U.S. national security for personal financial gain. How was payment made to U.S. persons? Think Ukraine. Think Iran. Russia and Iran allies. Russia, Iran, and China allies. U.S. political corruption China. U.S. political corruption Ukraine. U.S. leverage on behalf of. U.S. political corruption Russia. U.S. political corruption Iran. Common denominator China, Russia, and Iran. Closed financial systems. Logical thinking Q. Okay, so ultimately, just to unpack this a little bit, because you guys probably understand most of that, the point here is that you have Q outlining exactly how the policy toward Russia was that of appeasement and basically selling our country out for personal financial gain, right? They sold us out. They risked our national security for personal financial gain. And then they received payment for that betrayal through Ukraine. And Ukraine is why it's the most sensitive subject to all these Democrats and all these fake rhinos, because they understand that Ukraine ties them all back to this criminal betrayal of our country. For what? For a few $1 million, maybe a slush fund, just to give more power to our enemies abroad, are the alliance of Russia, China, and Iran, who obviously have closed financial systems, not open to the West, meaning they have these closed controlled systems which are at competition with our global system, right? Well, you can say relatively global system because the dollar is the strongest currency, more or less. So that's what it is. Logical thinking. You guys can put together the rest for yourselves. But when Q lays it out so succinctly, I just think it's so important that we focus on everything that's here and really understand how this betrayal occurred. Then Q says, bigger than you can imagine, more than selling of state secrets, more than selling of U.S. security, more than selling of military tech, more than selling of CIA assets, more than selling of NSA bulk data collection programs, more than selling of uranium, more than selling of U.S. space national security programs and positions, more than selling of U.S. aid, more than selling of special access program information, classified 1 through 99, crimes against humanity. When you cannot defeat the United States by attacking head on, you change tactics and deploy a kill from within internal operation, financial economy, military police, division of citizenry, border collapse, install like-minded leaders in key positions of U.S. government. How many people removed from the FBI had Iranian family backgrounds? Silent war continues, Q. Guys, think about it. All the people who were removed from the FBI with the Iranian background, who is the most prominent of those? Peter Strzok, who basically his father was, put him in, was working in Iran and working in Saudi Arabia, working with these, radical factions, it would seem now, looking back in hindsight, and putting together this secret operation to infiltrate the government through his son, possibly. You need to go and do the research on the families of all these people, but there were so many people, and Peter Strzok is a great example. You can also look at somebody like Valerie Jarrett and her family's connections back to Iran, and think about how they had infiltrated our government at the highest levels. Think about what that means, right? Was it with the kill from within internal operations strategy that they had to change their tactic and deploy because they can't defeat us head on? We had a bigger, better military than them, so they had to destroy from within. So, and then classified 1 through 99 talks about things that Q can't even talk about, crimes against humanity, the stuff that is even more depraved and evil that we can't even get into here, except to know that there were underground bunkers beneath Epstein Island where who knows what kind of unspeakable, heinous things happen. That in the guise of what, worshiping the devil, worshiping Satan. So these people worked very hard to destroy this country, right? There was a lot of people. And some were just selling out, it seems possible. And it also seems possible some were actually, in the broader sense, trying to destroy from within. But Q goes on to say, control over the media has people kept in the dark. Control over the media has people kept at heel behind. Control over the media has kept people focused on falsehoods. Control over the media has kept people in a constant state of fear. And control over the media has divided our republic into segments. Now we're divided by race and religion and class and political affiliation and gender. It's all been weaponized. When a citizenry is divided, they have no collective power. When a citizenry has no collective power, they can no longer control the levers that govern them. The levers of control, illusion of democracy, Q. This has been it from day one, guys, right? They've taken control over these factions in the media, and they use it to create mental slaves. And then divide you into your little slave cult sects, I should say, SECTS, sext. And it, like by race, religion, like Q is saying. And we've seen it. And then they try to go after the independent media. They go after the one place where we've been able to come together, and that's the internet, and have our own independent voices that can transcend this media machine that is meant to mentally enslave you, right? And then they try to slowly, very slowly, like a frog going into boiling water, or whatever you want to call it, death by 1,000 cuts. They're just slowly chipping away at independent creators, taking away opportunities for independent creators, replacing them with fake news media. It's disgusting, and that's the world we live in today, right? They're slowly trying to take back control, but there are too many people who are awake, and I really believe they're going to fail in this attempt. So now Q wants us to watch this. This is talking about the New Way Forward Act. And this, I watched it on Tucker last night. This is something we should be terrified of as a country. So watch this.
At this moment, there's a bill pending in the Congress called the New Way Forward Act. It's received almost no publicity, and that's unfortunate, as well as revealing. The legislation is sponsored by 44 House Democrats, including Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It's roughly 4,400 words long. That means it's almost exactly as long as the U.S. Constitution. Like the Constitution, it's designed to create a whole new country. The bill would entirely remake our immigration system with the explicit purpose of ensuring that criminals are able to move to the United States and settle here permanently with immunity. Now, you may think we're exaggerating for effect, but we're not exaggerating, not even a little bit. The New Way Forward Act is the single most radical piece of legislation we have ever seen proposed in this country, ever. It makes the Green New Deal look like the status quo. A document produced by Democrats to promote the bill says this, and we're quoting it verbatim. Convictions should not lead to deportation, end quote. Now, keep in mind, we're not talking about convictions for double parking or even for DUI. The bill targets felony convictions, serious crimes that could send you to prison for years, and should. A press release from Congressman Jesus Garcia of Illinois is explicit about this. Garcia brags that the bill will break the, quote, prison to deportation pipeline, something most of us were for. So how does the bill do that? Well, under current U.S. law, legal U.S. immigrants can be deported if they commit a, quote, aggravated felony or a crime of moral turpitude, that is a vile, depraved act like molesting children. Under the New Way Forward Act, crimes of moral turpitude are eliminated entirely as justification for deportation. And the category of aggravated felony gets eliminated too. So what does that mean? Consider this. Under current law, immigrants who commit serious crimes, robbery to fraud to child sexual abuse, must be deported regardless of the sentences they receive. Other crimes, less severe ones like racketeering, require deportation if the perpetrator receives at least a one-year sentence. Under this bill, there would no longer be any crime that automatically requires deportation, none. And one crime, falsifying a passport, would be made immune from deportation no matter what, because apparently 9/11 never even happened, and we no longer care about fake government documents. By the way, if you just renewed your driver's license to comply with the Real ID Act, you must feel like an idiot, because immigrants are getting a pass, you're not. Under the proposed legislation, for crimes that would still allow deportation, the required prison sentence would rise from 1 year to 5 years. We checked the Bureau of Justice statistics. According to federal data, crimes like car theft, fraud, and weapons offenses all carry average prison sentences of fewer than 5 years. And that's just looking at averages. There are people who commit rape, child abuse, even manslaughter, and get sentences with fewer than 5 years. Lots of them, actually. If the New Way Forward Act passes, immigrants who commit those crimes and receive those sentences would remain in this country. And, of course, they will be eligible for citizenship day one, too, of course. But even that is understating the law's effect. Even a 5-year prison sentence wouldn't necessarily be enough to trigger deportation. The bill would grant sweeping new powers to immigration judges, allowing them to nullify a deportation order. The only requirement for that is, quote, the immigration judge finds such an exercise of discretion appropriate in pursuant of humanitarian purposes, to assure family unity, or when it is otherwise in the public interest. Talk about open-ended. In other words, anti-American immigration judges, and there are a lot of those in this country, would have a blank check to open the borders. You would not be voting on this. It would happen anyway. Is this shocking you yet? Because we're just getting started. We read this proposed legislation. Here's another point. Current U.S. law makes drug addiction grounds for deportation because why wouldn't it? This bill would eliminate that statute. Current law also states that those who have committed drug crimes abroad or, quote, any crimes involving moral turpitude are ineligible to immigrate here. The New Way Forward Act abolishes that statute. So a Mexican drug cartel leader could be released from prison, then freely come to America immediately. And if he wants, he could come here illegally, and it still wouldn't be a crime because, and you were waiting for this part, the bill also decriminalizes illegal entry into America, even by those we've previously deported. In other words, you break our law, we send you out, you come back, you break it again, you can stay. According to a document promoting this bill, criminalizing illegal entry into America is, quote, white supremacist. That's a quote, white supremacist. Now, by this point, you're beginning to wonder, are we making this up? We're not making it up. In fact, we're barely halfway through the bill. The legislation doesn't just make it harder to deport illegal immigrants who commit crimes. It doesn't just make it easier for criminals to move here illegally, though it does both. The bill would also effectively abolish all existing enforcement against illegal immigration. To detain illegal immigrants, ICE would have to prove in court that they are dangerous or a flight risk. But of course, ICE wouldn't be allowed to use a detainee's prior criminal behavior as proof of danger. That's banned. ICE would have to overcome even more hurdles if the detainee claims to be gay or transgendered. If they're under 21 or if they can't speak English and an interpreter isn't immediately available, they get a pass. In other words, it would be much harder to arrest an illegal alien in this country than it is to arrest you. They're the protected class here. You're just some loser who's paying for it all. But believe it or not, we saved the nuttiest part of this legislation for last, and here's what it is. What could be more destructive than changing U.S. law specifically to allow rapists, child molesters, and drug dealers to stay in America? How about this? Using taxpayer money to bring deported criminals back into America. That's right. This bill would not only abolish your right to control who lives in your country, but it invents a brand new right. Quote, the right to come home. It orders the government to create a, quote, pathway for those previously deported to apply to return to their homes and families in the United States, as long as they would have been eligible to stay under the new law. It's retroactive, in other words. DHS must spend taxpayer dollars transporting convicted criminal illegal aliens back into the United States. Not making this up. So who would be eligible for these flights? Tens of thousands of people we kicked out of this country for all kinds of crimes. Sexual abuse, robbery, assault, drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, human trafficking. From 2002 to 2018, 480,000 people were deported for illegal entry or re-entry into America. And under this bill, you'd have to buy each of them a plane ticket to come home. Those tickets alone would cost about $1 billion. And that's before Democrats make you start paying for these criminals free health care, too, which they plan to do and have said so.
So that was the New Way Forward Act as described by Tucker Carlson, and that's terrifying. And Q says it's time to wake up, and yeah, it is time to wake up. We have to ring the alarm bells and tell the whole world that this is unacceptable, and tell all of these people who are trying to destroy our country from within that we will not allow it. The next one here is a post from Joe M. He's back on Twitter and has a new video up. The best is yet to come. I'll leave a link to this down in the description if you want to go watch it. Obviously, Joe M does great work, so go watch his work. I'll let you go to his YouTube channel and watch it for yourself. Link will be in the description, obviously. The next thing here is Q basically giving us this post, right, from February of 2019. So it was talking about what we talked about in the last episode. So incredibly enough here, this is the top half of, and if you keep reading into this post, it actually is what we covered in the exact episode before Q posted, talking about the crime against children, what was happening with Uranium One, and what was happening with all the spirit cooking and the stuff that Q is basically alluded to is the classified 1 through 99 crime against humanity in general. But this is talking about the corruption and infiltration, right? And this is the thing we need to focus on, I think, is what Q is trying to tell us, which I appreciate, because, you know, we definitely have to focus our efforts on different things. And here it is, talking about James Comey, Andrew McCabe, and how these people were all fired or forced for the reason of, you guessed it, infiltrating our government and trying to overthrow it from within. Now, this seems to be an important video that Q wants us to watch. It says, listen carefully, and I'll leave a link to this tweet as well if you want to watch the full video.
Now, I want you to know clearly this has not been verified by the court, but by the outside firm that alleges to have bank account records for Burisma and Hunter Biden. They go on to identify some of the recipients of the Burisma money laundering web. And I want to show you this from page 6. Quote, Burisma Holdings Limited finances Atlantic Council, Ukraine, associated rogue operatives from the U.S. State Department, Five Eyes, and CrowdStrike in Ukraine using Privat Bank. So if CrowdStrike is in fact part of a list of payees from Burisma, then this is yet another U.S.-based link that our prosecutors could use to follow the money, just like Hunter Biden. What was CrowdStrike? Suddenly the mention of CrowdStrike isn't so laughable because it's not about the conspiracy. It's about money laundering. The media not only failed to ask the right questions, they don't want to ask any questions. But now I hope someone will.
So then Q goes on to say, if dirty cops ran the investigation into the DNC breach, could an argument be made that it was corrupt? If dirty cops ran the investigation into the election interference, could an argument be made that it was corrupt? If dirty cops ran the investigation into HRC, private server, email scandal, could an argument be made that it was corrupt? Russia did not penetrate the DNC server. Internal download release. CrowdStrike, manipulation of source. Russia did not interfere with U.S. election of 2016. CrowdStrike, manipulation of source. The truth will be made public. Q. So take what Glenn Beck just said, right? The fact that you have these connections with the Five Eyes and this Privat Bank and this CrowdStrike, right? CrowdStrike was the company that was enlisted by the cybersecurity firm enlisted by the DNC to do what? To cover up their crimes, to cover up the fact that it was very much more likely, looking at the information, that an insider like Seth Rich downloaded it directly and then released it, not that the Russians hacked it, and that they had the technology and capability at that time to make it appear as though the Russians were the ones hacking. So I'm just saying that's something we have to keep in mind. That's what Q's pointing to. And finally, Q says, why is China, Qatar donating vast sums of money to our educational institutions? And it gives this Finance Yahoo article, right, which talks about Harvard leads the U.S. colleges that received $1 billion from China. Well, why would China be giving $1 billion to Harvard? Well, the very next thing Q wants us to look at is this right here. I was going to cover this in yesterday's episode, but for the sake of time, we were going to save this for the next episode. Luckily, Q brought it back up. Department of Justice announced today that the chair of Harvard University's Chemistry and Chemical Biology Department and 2 Chinese nationals have been charged in connection with aiding the People's Republic of China. So it says Dr. Charles Lieber, who's the chair of the Department of Chemistry and Chemical Biology at Harvard University, was arrested this morning and charged by criminal complaint with 1 count of making a materially false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement. Lieber will appear this afternoon before Magistrate Judge Marianne B. Bowler in federal court in Boston, Massachusetts. And then there are these other 2 Chinese nationals who were picked up. Seemingly, one was trying to leave the country, and the other one, I think, is in China right now. So think about this, though. There is an immense attempt at infiltration, espionage, and subterfuge that Q is telling us is happening. You have China, Russia, Iran, and not only are they trying to steal our secrets from our higher education institutions, not only are they trying to bribe and corrupt all these corporations to follow their communist, suggestions, not only are they stealing intellectual property and using it, just basically completely replicating it and then using it for their own benefit, they're doing these things in an effort to undermine our strength globally. And it's all part of a very systematically put together operation to infiltrate, as Q said, and destroy from within, a kill from within operation. That's what we're looking at right here. And thankfully, we have a president and a government now who's actually trying to stand up against this and not let our country be destroyed by these people who would love nothing more than to see it completely fail. And then Q goes on to say, is it really so hard to believe foreign actors are able to bribe those in key positions within the U.S. to betray their country? Q. And I have to say, at this point, it definitely is not. That's pretty much where we're going to wrap it up. A few more things before we go. Obviously, I want you guys to come here, watch these videos, share them on your social media. That's how we get around the suppression algorithm. Like Q says, the media is trying to strangle they have a stranglehold over what information gets out there, and they're trying to control what people see so that they are kept in the dark, as Q says here. So that's why you guys got to share these videos and get it out there, because we're going to continue to do this no matter what, and we're going to circumvent the fake news and the lies that they put out and counter it with what we know is our truth, and we're going to talk about that openly here on this channel. So that is something important for you guys to do. Also, leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I want to hear what you guys have to think about all of this. Also, before we go, check out redpillliving.com/justinformed. This video is brought to you in part by them. They do some great products. You should go check out their liposomal vitamin. The whole line is great. They have carbon 60, which you should do some research and see why you should be taking that. It's a very interesting supplement. They also do coffee. If you just want to get a good cup of joe to get up and get your morning started, they have this new brand called the Great Awakening. Awakening. They have all different types of flavors, great stuff, even the K-Cups. So use the link in the description and use the coupon code JUSTINFORMED to get 10% off your order there. Also, be brave, download the Brave browser. Why? Because it's an incredible product and it's free. And you use the link in the description. If you use the link in the description to download it, install it, and run it on your computer, it'll actually make a contribution to this channel. And it's a win-win because it's a great product. It's better than Internet Explorer or Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox or whatever internet browser you're using, because it blocks the ads and it makes your internet experience that much better. So go try out the Brave browser today and use the link in the description to download it, install it, and run it on your computer. That's a great way to help out the channel. Also, you can find me over here on Twitter at JustInformYou. I got to thank you guys. We've hit 50,000 followers on Twitter. So just another milestone, and I'm very thankful to everyone who watches this channel and follows me on Twitter. If you guys don't do that, like I said, come find me at JustInformYou. We can keep growing the channel over there as well. Also, I'm on BitChute as the backup channel, and we've hit 6,000 subscribers there. Thank you guys. You guys are doing great. I really appreciate all of your support. Make sure you come over here, bitchute.com/justinformedtalk. I try to get the videos up there as often as I can for you guys to check out. Also, there is justinformednews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk. Just a great website for links, and all the videos get posted here, so go check that out. And if you want to help contribute to this channel and keep it going in the face of all the YouTube demonetization, which back in July of 2019, they basically demonetized every video in my library and tried to put this channel out of business, but you guys stepped up. Patreon, patreon.com. It's a crowdfunding website, monthly donation, links in the description. You set it and forget it. You know, you're helping create content on this channel. I also have a GoFundMe set up. If you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation, links to everything will be in the description below. So with that, I want to share this verse out of the book of James for a segment we do at the end of each one of these episodes called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. And because this is such a broader topic where it talks about, you know, the themes that we're covering here in these Q posts are talking about, you know, actual war. These if this is true, then these countries tried to sabotage us from within. They tried, and you know, rightfully so. I guess if you think about it, everybody's trying to get at edge and become better, right? So the global game is what's being played, whatever you want to call it. And but it is a silent war. And I found a verse that I think talks to how we should look at this in our hearts, because as Christians, you know, for me as a Christian evangelist, you know, I have to continue to understand that, you know, I'm not perfect and I'm making mistakes, and I want you guys to know that I'm learning with you, and this is something I think we can learn from. Book of James chapter 4 verse 1 through I think 11 or 12, but it says here, it's talking about being proud or humble. It says, what is the source of wars and fights among you? Don't they come from the cravings that are at war within you? You desire and do not have. You murder and covet and cannot obtain. You fight in war. You do not have because you do not ask. And you ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly, so that you may spend it on your desires for pleasure. It says, adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is hostility towards God? So whoever wants to be the world's friend becomes God's enemy. Or do you think it's without reason the scripture says that the Spirit he has caused to live in us yearns jealously, but he gives greater grace? Therefore he says, God resists the proud but gives grace to the humble. Therefore submit to God, but resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, sinners, and purify your hearts, double-minded people. Be miserable and mourn and weep. Your laughter must change to mourning and your joy to sorrow. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will exalt you. Don't criticize one another, brothers. He who criticizes a brother or judges his brother criticizes the law and judges the law. But if you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. There is one lawgiver and judge who is able to save and to destroy. But who are you to judge your neighbor? And I have to remind myself of this all the time, I guess. You know, you look at all this evil, right, that surrounds us. You look at the way that there's people out there that want to destroy us, take what we have. But then you have to temper yourself by understanding there really is only one judge, as it says there, and that is the judge above, God above, right? And ultimately, we're all going to return to ashes, dust to dust. We'll return to the earth from which we came. And God is the only constant factor that we can look to as a way to live our lives. And that's going to take a lot of understanding, patience, and forgiveness. But as it says there, we have to submit to God, but resist the devil, and the devil will flee from us. So we are resisting the devil by living a better life, by standing and rebuking the evil that surrounds us and living as Christians. And that's my message to you. So I hope that resonates. And I really thank you guys for joining me here. Share that message with your family, friends, get the word out there. But that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Make sure you tap it, pop it, bop it, whatever, twist it. Hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. That's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.